these words.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome on a cool and rainy day in Poland. Actually, I didn't expect this weather like this, but so it will change a little bit. And thank you first of all to our host for not only for successfully applying to the EU for this program, great success, congratulations. Thank you all for organizing this summer school. The topic of the summer school, as Piotr already mentioned, emerged out of a discussion in my garden when we thought, what can we do as a kind of common project? And the idea, I mean, it was obvious that it was the time of the crisis in 2010, that we could do something on the crisis. And the interesting thing is do a comparative study on the economic crisis, which I would like to call the sovereign debt crisis. Our idea was to compare how citizens, how societies, how regions and states are affected, and we would have liked to do a comparative study. Finally, we got Wrocław got the international, we got the EU program. The crisis is far from over. Probably, if you're optimistic, you can say it takes a break, but we don't know. We really don't know what will happen. And it developed into the most serious crisis of European integration so far. That means there are still people discussing whether the European Union will break, whether the European Union will survive the Union. So these are dramatic times, these are harsh times. But let me come back to my topic in a minute. I would like to add something on a summer school in particular. Summer schools are, first of all, an intellectual adventure. People from different countries meet and they have different perspectives. And I think this is a very challenging thing because with different perspectives, they do not fit together. Sometimes this is good because we need controversial discussions. On the other hand, summer schools are an opportunity to meet, so that people from different countries with different backgrounds will be together for nearly 2 weeks' time. So this is an adventure for the participants as well. And I think this summer school will enhance our understanding of different perspectives from these different countries. I'm here with, coming from a small university in southwest Germany on the French border. I will give you some pictures of our university just right now. I'm here with 8 students. 7. One is missing. Because due to the weather conditions, he will be a bit later. And with us is also, they are sitting here. There's the 7 girls over there. And then with me is my colleague Werner Sirmar, who will present just after my presentation. And with us is a PhD candidate, David Prof, who supported the drafting of our paper. Yes, and but now let me come to my topic. Good morning. Okay, so what can you expect in the approximately next 30 up to 40 minutes? After this 30 to 40 minutes, we will have an opportunity for some Q's and A's, for some questions and answers, and then we'll have, according to the organizational committee, we'll have a little break, and then my colleague Werner will present. Okay, so what can you expect? After a short introduction, I would like to say something on the roots of the crisis. but I would like only to discuss political developments, because I'm not an economist. This is my colleague Rainer Sirmar, he's an economist by profession, and he will give you some more information on the economic side. And then I will discuss the effects of the crisis. The effects on governments, the effects on societies, I just call this one the erosion of trust, and the revival of old stereotypes and so on. I will pay some attention to Germany, and one of my hypotheses then is it's intergovernmental institutions are the winners of the whole process. Finally, I will discuss what is the impact of the crisis for the integration process in general. As you can see, it is more general. We started with general observation. I would like to give a kind of framework for our topics related to civil society. But first of all, let me introduce to you our university, because yesterday we didn't have time to do this. We had been on a very nice excursion to Krakow. So I will try to give you some impressions for the students from the other 4 universities. This is our university, I mean on this side, on the right side. And as you can see, well, I don't think it's a very good quality, but we can switch off the light over there. But okay, so this is a small town. We have 6,500 students in Landau, which is a small place close to the French border. And we have 6,500 students in Kobenz, which is 180 kilometers remote from each other. So we are a campus university. This is university. Actually, it's not the university. Landau students. So if I say something wrong, just tell me immediately. This is my institute. Yeah, it's very old. It's unlike this building, which is very nice. This is from the 17th century, and this is the home of the great-grandfather of Anne Frank. So he lived there, we call it the Frank-Löbsches house. Actually, it's a museum, and if you are smart, you see what's over there. It's a table. So we have a restaurant inside the institute. Well, because it's a tourist thing, so you know, if I have colleagues from America, we often sit there and enjoy it. This is a library, so we have modern buildings as well. Just to show you, we are a relatively young university, only 23 years of age. Before this, we used to be a teacher training college. So they have changed a little bit. Yeah, these are the new buildings, and we are proud of these twin towers, as you can see them on my left side. And again, the library. And this one, can you translate it? This university is occupied. So our students went on strike. And we are not unhappy about this, because we cannot strike. But the students are allowed to strike, and the student strike was in favor of more professors, better equipment, and so on and so on. So it's hard to say, but I welcome this strike. It was a good idea, but I was not allowed to support it. Okay, yeah, this is our country. This is a wine country, and I'm serious with it. It's the biggest wine country in Germany. And this, it looks like this. There's always wine and these hilly areas. And this is our mayor. That's the wine princess. And this is the wine princess. She was my student, Janina. She became a teacher now, but she was a wine princess. You can say an ambassador of wine, because what she's actually doing, she's traveling from one place to the other, even to Japan, to do some marketing and advertising for wine. This is a very special feature. Hardly we have any university reception without wine. It's like in France, you know. We are 20 kilometers far from France, so I would say the culture is somehow similar. Okay, some information will be, I can be very fast with this one. Only I would like to mention one thing, my areas of research. I do European integration, European foreign policy, German foreign policy, and African politics. So my heart beats for Africa, I can say, but nevertheless I do research on the European Union, and currently we're working on an application for a larger project, and who are supporting us, and hopefully we will get it through. I have some experience in Poland as well, but unfortunately my Polish is very little, so I better leave it. Okay? I start with this picture. Don't go already knows it, I know. What can you see here? This is an EU Council meeting. I think we experienced since 2009 22 council meetings. Sometimes not in the whole formation, but okay. It's Brussels, February 2010. So what can you see? Who's on the picture? Try. I don't want to lose much time. Who's on the picture? Okay, I'm going to. He? Who is it? This is Sarkozy. No, this is Sarkozy. Okay. Is this one? This is the Greek one, Papandreou at that time. Well, we have nearly forgotten him. Yeah. And you know, what is the characteristic of this picture? I like this picture very much because it says a lot about the crisis.
They're all looking in different directions.
So, who is still in office? Who is still in office? Angela Merkel. But we have elections this year, so we'll see. He is not in office? No. He was voted out. He? No, he was voted out too. And who's in the back?
Van Rompuy.
Van Rompuy. He is the head of the European Council for 2.5 years. This guy. You said a little bit. President of the EU Commission, Barroso. At that time, he has resigned already. Trichet, the French ECB governor. So what is characteristic of this picture? The front line are heads of states and government. And the second line are the heads of EU institutions. And this is not a coincidence. And what else? How do the people look like? What would you say? How can you describe this?
Exhausted, tired.
Oh, they look tired, exactly. Because they were negotiating the whole night long. They are really tired. And usually the EU makes the most important decisions in the night, in the morning. And they look a little bit. Are they happy?
No.
No, of course they're not happy. They look depressed somehow. It's very characteristic, and this is a very good picture of EU crisis management. So, you know, the crisis took European leaders, not only European leaders, but also European experts, by surprise. It was very fast, and nobody actually knows what to do. And sometimes I have doubts, and sometimes I think, even now, it's very difficult to know what is right and what is wrong in this crisis. So my topics will be not so much on the economic reasons, this is Werner Sirmar's presentation, but I would like to deal with the effects of the crisis on states, national governments, and societies, I should say. And I would like to say something on the effects of EU policy, or should be better called crisis management, on European integration in general. And the next one is a more very general discussion. What does the crisis, what is the significance of the crisis for the European integration as a whole? Is it like the phoenix rise from the ashes, or is it the end of Europe? So we could discuss this probably if we have enough time. Okay, so here I formulated some conventional wisdom and some ideas about the roots of the crisis. The roots of the crisis, and I think Werner Sirmar will especially add some information on this, and I'm not an expert on this. Fred Bergstein argues, for example, the European crisis rooted in the failure of institutional design. And what he means is not only the optimal currency region, or whatever. He also means that you cannot have a common currency, but it's impossible to do it without a common finance and economic policy. I mean, not as a whole, but you cannot just have an isolated isolated common currency. In the Maastricht negotiations, as we know by now, Germany's idea was to have a political union in the long run. But that was blocked by French and British resistance at that time, because they feared of German dominance. This is always the question of how to deal with which state is probably has potential to dominate. And then in 2000, Germany was in a crisis, France was in an economic crisis, and the German and the French Prime Minister agreed, the state president agreed not to pay too much attention to the stability gap. They just weakened it. So they are responsible that the Maastricht criteria, which I would like to refer here, wasn't taken as face value. They argued, well, these are exceptional times, these are hard times. So for a short period, we will not take care of these criteria. And actually, I wouldn't say they destroyed the stability pact, but they made it worse. And then, of course, there was the policy of the European Union, of the ECB, the central bank, with cheap money. You had low interest rates. So states could borrow for 2%, 3% sometimes. This was actually the German rate. And they could borrow money easily. Although the economic situation was desperate. And they borrowed, and they financed a big party. But of course, when the crash came, they had these debts, and banks, even ECB for some times, were not willing to do this, to further stay with this policy. The effects of the crisis, I mean, it's obvious that we can identify effects on the social, economic, political, societal, effects, social effects, economic, and so on. They call it turbulence, because since then, and this crisis is far from being over, since then the EU is in turbulences. And I would argue, well, first of all, let me say we have a lack of data, which is a problem because we don't have so many comparative, empirical data so far. This is a wide field for very good master thesis, bachelor thesis, or even PhD. So I haven't seen any article, comparative perspective, for example, on effects on, let me say, social integration, social cohesion, or whatever. Well, of course, there's some studies, but they are really limited in scope. So I was looking, but I didn't find very many of them. But it's also related between politics and society. We come to my first point, destabilization of governments. In most cases, a direct line, yes, but we need, of course, some at least some correlations or factor analysis or whatever. We need some more statistical analysis for this. This is, you could take as a hypothesis. But it's quite clear, such economic crisis will have an impact on politics. And I will demonstrate tomorrow morning, when I will give my second lecture, I will demonstrate effects with the example of the monetary crisis in Germany, 1920s, 1930s. What does it mean in comparative perspective to our crisis? And if you look to the governments, Greek people, they enjoy the third government now in 3 years' time. They have 3 governments. In Spain, there's a new conservative government. The socialist government, which was made responsible for the failure of policy failure, was voted out. Italy, the drama about Berlusconi. And the government of technocrats, so-called technocrats under Mario Monti followed. And the recent elections, they saw no real winner, except probably the below 5-star movement, but they seem to be unable to form an effective government. Slovakia, we have 2 students from Slovakia. And you know much better what happened in Slovakia. But here, the government was voted out. And you can see when Sulik, he was the leader of the opposition at that time, when he brought the question of solidarity to the fore, when he argued that isn't solidarity to tell a Slovakian retiree, my dear man, we are raising the value-added tax so that a Greek retiree can continue getting 1,200 euros a month. Of course, in Slovak Republic, I don't know, you have probably a pension of 200 euros a month, probably 300. You might know better. So this is, and if you see the style of the argumentation, this is of course populism. This is strong populism. This is a perverse form of solidarity. So the new member states, especially, are totally dissatisfied with all these bailouts, for example, credit lines and whatever, because they said, we went through a valley of tears in our transformation period, but now, these countries, they were overspending and they were unsound economic politics, and now we have to pay for them. Well, it's not so easy, but this is the argumentation. Slovenia, you can see it, Iceland was in turbulence as well, Netherlands, Portugal, France. France is an important case, from Sarkozy to Hollande, and even Germany. The German government lost the majority in the second house of parliament, the so-called Bundesrat. It was because of defeats at the polls in some key states. And exactly the government lost the elections in the key state after the EU had decided on the first financial package for Greece. At that time, only 120 billion euro. which is nothing if you see the whole sum at the moment around 1.6 billion. Billion. No, some of it is trillions. What we can see, and I lack data for this, mostly negative affected are the countries deeply in crisis, the southern countries especially, but not all countries are affected in the same manner. The degree of affection varies considerably. Are the positive effects we can have? And I think the unpositive effects in some countries. Social unrest. This is a second thing which turned out. Okay. Okay, yeah. It looks like this. Usually, international protesters were the American flag. In the Middle East, you can see it every day, because it's a very nice thing for the media to see people burn another country's flag. But here, the Portuguese burned the EU flags. And that was totally new, totally unknown to the EU. And here you can see. This is a wave of protests and demonstrations throughout Europe. What's this? Any idea? CGT, this is in France, of course. Here again, but they are in 2010, and they are in 2000. No, they are 2010, and they are 2013. Well, CGT is a communist influence and socialist trade union movement, and they took the lead in this struggle. You can see there are many young people as well. This is a problem of youth unemployment. I will not give you some data because I have some very nice files. What about this one? Nous sommes tout. What does it mean? I don't know. Assez. This is a very nice thing. We are all Greeks. So this is solidarity. This is 2013, but then there's another one. And the French government was lucky, because the protest still continued against these austerity measures, but there was another topic from one day to the other that helped the government.
Gay marriage.
What?
Gay marriage.
Gay marriage, yeah. As you can see, the mass demonstrations. I was surprised. I could have never imagined that so many people would demonstrate in France against gay marriage. For the government, politically, it was good because it survived it. Okay, so we could witness mobilization in many of these countries, especially in the countries negatively affected. And always left-wing parties, the trade unionists, took the lead at first. In some countries, they tried to form populist movements, but they didn't succeed so far. There was violence, but compared to the extent of the crisis, a relatively low level. In Greece, I think 3 or 4 demonstrators were killed, but that was, due to different circumstances, not systematically killed police or so. But we don't have so much strong anti-EU movements. We have anti-EU parties, so it's within the limits of the constitutional framework, but we don't have so much extra-parliamentary movements. This is very important for the stability. The governments are destabilized, and I will come to this later, and we have high voter voting. The government changes overnight. Swings 20%, 30% sometimes. That means people are looking for an alternative. But the new government, like in France, is now experiencing what does it mean in such crisis times and hard times, governing in hard times. Also, we have to be very cautious, it's the bargaining tool. If you look up the negotiations between Greece and the EU, or the Troika and the IMF, or Cyprus, it's always this quality social unrest cards they take. So the Greek Prime Minister, for example, said, I cannot sell this at home. When I come home, people were marching in the streets, so don't be so tough with Greece. Just mitigate. And this is sometimes a bargaining tool. So political unrest is useful if you're negotiating with the EU. So we should keep this in mind, because sometimes governments are not very happy about it. Is it a danger for democracy? No. No, clear no. Probably there should be a little bit more sophisticated. I don't think it's a danger at the moment, because the institutions perform. After protest, life is going on. But if government is unstable, this is really a problem. And we have a rise of populism, although not, at the moment, not organized outside the party system at the moment. In Germany, probably there will be a change. In some other countries, I'm not sure. And we have a general lack of trust. The scientists know, explain it, that we will probably lose diffuse support. And if you lose diffuse support, in the long run, that can really democracy, can really damage democracy. So if you see the empirical data, don't rely always on the Eurozone. You can take different data sets. We lose trust when I come to this in a moment. What is civil society? Okay, this seminar is on civil society. And of course we have to ask, first of all, what do we understand in the term civil society? It's very different. There's hardly any common sense on a definition of civil society. We know there's a third sector between business and between government. Yes, what does it mean? I think civil society will be directly affected by the crisis. On the other hand, I believe maybe a chance for civil society in some countries. Why? First of all, maybe we will ask, is civil society really mobilized? Are they doing something? Which parts of civil society? The so-called classical parts, like interest groups? Or do we have new actors, like new social movements? And are they able to play an active role? Is civil society strong enough? Do they have the means and resources to be an actor in this crisis? And of course, some would argue, well, they really have that bridging function between the society and the state. They can mitigate conflicts. They can work on conflict constructively. The other things are, of course, in how far will they be willing to articulate the interests of the needy, the poor people, the losers of the country? Or does civil society act on behalf of the stronger economic strata? We don't know. We don't have much empirical data on this. Do they reconcile, in some cases, the polarized societies? And probably we should have to look to uncivil groups as well. Groups using violence, or groups who are in a position to be a veto player. Think about civil societies, transformation and transition processes. We have in some countries groups which play a major role for liberating democratic rights in society. But after the Austrian regime has failed in many countries, these strong groups block every reform. There are even some colleagues of mine who would argue, have a look at the Polish church. Which is, of course, controversial topic. They would argue, well, the church played a very active role to bring down communism. I think this is consensus. But if you look at the behavior of the church after the fall of the Austrian communist regime, is it a positive role? So I'm not a specialist on this. Polish Jews could help us add something on this. But I mean that, these civil society groups, they can block reforms. Or even develop into uncivil society groups, using violence, for example. So probably we see the rise of these movements. They are just hypotheses. Just take them as hypotheses. We don't have empirical data for these ideas. Or are we the witness of the birth of transnational civil societies? The victims of the crisis, the losers, unite. The dream of the trade unions. Is this coming true? Do we have some empirical science of it? We'll see. Okay. Growing public discontent, lack of trust. This is the European Barometer 73, when the crisis was fully hit Germany and the EU. And this is a typical question, do you trust the EU? And this question is asked since 1975. In Germany, only 37% said they trust the EU. 55% don't trust the EU. This is a sensation, because usually Germany always supported, large majority supported European integration and trusted the EU. The EU average is 42, so Germany was under the EU average at that time, and only the lowest figure after Great Britain, which is not really surprising. Even France, only 39%. So a wave of distrust and mistrust to the European Union. The majority in Germany at that time favored the D-Mark, the return of the D-Mark. Okay. I have to translate because I couldn't find the English slide. This is a question that actually said, in general terms, do you have a more positive, very, very positive, more positive, or are you undecided, or do you have a negative or very negative image of the EU, picture of the EU? And what you can see, this is positive, this is I don't know, or both, and this is negative. What you can see, the picture, the positive picture of the EU from 2006 declined to only 31% in EB 77, which is the spring 2012. So, the number of supporters of the EU is drastically reduced, and many people, the majority, largest group, not majority, largest group, does not know whether positive or negative. They lost orientation. Oh yeah, this is. But is it fair to say that we have a crisis of trust of European integration? I would say yes, but because we see this one, the question is, just tell me whether you trust the following institutions: national government, the national parliament, European Union. What you can see here is really surprising. People lost trust or lose trust in every institution. The national government, 28%. Okay, there's large differences. We don't have the time. Between Greece, for example, and the Netherlands, or Germany or Denmark, and so on. But we cannot deal with this at the moment, the general figures. But here, even the national parliament, 28%. The EU, okay, 31%. So it's a crisis. It's a general crisis of trust. Trust into political institutions as such, probably into the political system as such. This is a much deeper thing, a much more serious thing than just losing trust in the European Union. On the other hand, what do people expect? Or what do people expect to solve this crisis? In your opinion, which of the following is best able to take effective actions against the effects of the financial and economic crisis? The national government equals European Union, then followed by International Monetary Fund, G20, the United States. 7% believe the United States will be able to take action most effectively. I'm not really interested, I'm not really knowing what they're interested, but none, again, relatively large group. What is the message of this one? This is reference. Are you all political sciences, your experience with statistics? What is the message? Well, there's not much trust in any of these institutions. Again, this is not a very nice result. Even the European Union, people just don't know. You can see this is the old one, 2011, 2012. Well, nobody really thinks it's international institutions, not even the national governments can bring this. This is, I would say, this is an interesting finding. There's a decrease of trust, but not only in the EU, also national institutions. And the very recent surveys, there will be an increase of trust and confidence in most countries. So it's changed in the course of the crisis. So if there's hope, immediately the survey data is changing. We have more trust with European. This is not very surprising. Now the last one is I couldn't give you some data. The interesting thing is the last finding is that in most countries the population, over 90% of the population, is willing to reform, making the country able to face the future. I could just give you some data. In Belgium, 90%, in Germany, 88%, in Greece, 96%. Only very few countries like Turkey outside the EU, 78%, and Luxembourg, 70%. But most populations want reforms to cope with the crisis. The question is, of course, what kind of reforms? But this is another discussion. We can probably say something to it. What a war of words. I think you're all reading You're all reading the press, at least you should do it. If you don't do it, you can do it online, so you really have to do it. And my hypothesis is that the crisis, and this is a fact which aggravated, which really deepened the effect of the crisis. The crisis activates stereotypes and historical memories. In this field, of course, the media plays a big role because the media is all the universe through the media. I give this two. This is, of course, a Greek crisis. They're not so nice pictures, I know. This is the German tabloid press, the infamous Bild-Zeitung, the notorious one. Giving advice, you bankrupt Greeks, you could sell your islands. I mean, that's embarrassing, of course. We can agree on this. But the Bild-Zeitung is read by 3 million people daily. Some people even say 5 million people. And every British is reading the Bild-Zeitung, of course, because there are elections. And this one, what is this one? Are we back to National Socialism? You can use it in a lecture as well. You can, what do you see?
It's the new Greek party.
Yes, it's organized by the New Greek Party, the populist left-wing party, in this case. And they play theater. This is a performance. They are dressed in Nazi uniforms, and they have this, what in German is forbidden if you use this national socialist greeting. You pay a fine. And this is during the visit of Angela Merkel in Greece. Of course, this is planned. I mean, so they play with the stereotypes. By the way, there was not much German reaction to this. But if you follow up the news, you'll find many of these examples. I'm not sure whether you find this in Slovakia or other countries, but it seems that there's a real campaign. And I think these stereotypes, they aggravate political divisions. We have on the one hand, countries like Germany, Finland, Austria, Netherlands are more or less against the Southerners. And of course, we have a discussion about more social union and what is solidarity. This will be the next debate. And by the way, this, in this journal we received for free yesterday, there's a very good article by Sigmund Baumann on the idea of what is solidarity. So probably we get the next discussion on solidarity. And we have to discuss what it means in this context. Well, the problem is with this one, David knows this graph, of course, this is a 10-year bond, the interest rate for 10-year bonds. 10-year government bonds. So governments want to recapitalize on the capital market. What you can see here is a relatively low level of interest rates. It's Germany here. What you can see with the German interest rate, the German government needs credit. They can borrow for 10 years money for this interest rate. This is the idea. You can see the German one. It goes nearly to 0. So Germany pays 1, 2, 3%, it depends. But you can see what happens to, for example, Greece. Jumping. And this is a clear indication that you have also probably some winners. Or at least countries which are not so affected. But from an economic point of view, probably wrong. But my understanding, you can just say, that the countries are very differently affected. If you have short-term ones, it would be even worse for some countries. So that means a recapitalization on financial markets was not possible for some countries in some periods. The problem seems to be that one country is winning, the winner. And this is for historical reasons, this is difficult. From a neoliberalist perspective, we would say, well, if one country is very strong, potential hegemon, the other countries would like to gang up and form coalitions. And what you can see within the EU institutions is sometimes happening. But there's Germany, Austria, Finland, and probably 2, 3 other countries sitting on the one side and the other countries on the other side. And there's a massive conflict. And in Germany, you see the situation, this makes our discussion very difficult because we have a country which at the moment not really hit by the crisis. At the moment, we don't know what will happen. But if we have a look at this one, the Germans, for example, in this one, they value the overall situation as total good 57%, and the EU is only 20%. So in Germany, people are more or less satisfied with the economic situation. Well, we have low unemployment rate, relatively low inflation at the moment, we have other problems, okay, but it seems that there are 2 different Europes. within the European Union. That makes it very difficult to negotiate. Because Germany's interest, in this case, it was Germany economies, it was Austria, and Finland, and so on. This is difficult for the partners of Germany. And this one, yeah, we'll have to cut some parts, I guess. This one is a table where they just asked, it's a Pew Research Center, it's an American one, I couldn't find this graph in English. They did the survey in the following countries, and they were asked, which country do you trust most? Oh, Greece, people trust Greece. This is not really surprising, I would say. But the British, the French, interviewed almost 1,000 representative survey data and so on. They trust Germany so much. This is a sensation. We never expected this. And then, which country do you trust? The least. Then you can see that the Greece people don't trust Germany at all. And the Polish people, 50-50. Those are Polish people, they're always an enigma for me. Because, on the one hand, they admire Germany, they trust Germany, and on the other hand, they don't trust it. So it seems to be a split in the Polish society. And which countries are the most arrogant ones? It's a picture, it's mixed, I would say. So, I mean, with these stereotypes. I know you have to be very cautious with this data, but anyway. And the least arrogant countries, Spain, for example, Greece, Poland, Slovakia. And the most, you say midfield, sympathetic, yeah, which are the most sympathetic countries, and the least sympathetic countries. The British think the Germans are the least sympathetic countries. The Germans believe the British are least sympathetic. They don't have sympathy for the victims of the crime. So, it is mixed, The point is, I mean, we as scientists, we can say, well, we don't take it seriously. It changes so rapidly. But politicians take it very seriously because they want to be re-elected. In the German elections, all these things will play a big role. And then the sensation. In November 2011, the Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs, Radosław, he said, I couldn't find it in English, so I'm less afraid of German power than of German passive leaders. So that was an idea Germany should take the lead as a special responsibility, which in Germany didn't know how to react on this thing. I mean, they had no ideas. There was not much they could really do. But this is said from a Polish foreign minister. So we never thought about this. And I think this leads to a crisis, but no, that's too far. Okay, so now I will be brief because we are running out of time. What about the institutions? I think this is a clear finding. Supranational institutions, Parliament, Commission, they are out of the game. This is a game of intergovernmental institutions. They play a secondary role, the Parliament and the Commission. Of course, Barroso writes this paper, and then together with Van Rompuy they write a paper. And what happens? Not so much after this. So the executives dominate. Jürgen Habermas calls this the executive federalism of the European Union. So that means that power goes more away from parliaments, more to the executives. Democracy terms, this can cause a problem. And the crisis management is sometimes within intergovernmental organization institutions, but sometimes even outside. That means very small groups of European leaders. Germany, France, probably Italy, sometimes like Italy. They meet, they discuss, and they prepare decisions. And this is a problem not only for small countries, because you have to ask why. Why do they dominate? First of all, in crisis politics, usually executives dominate because you don't have time. You have to be fast with reactions. Because these are sometimes emergency situations. So, on the other hand, within 27 or even 28 countries very soon, to find consensus about crisis reactions is very difficult. So what you try to circumvene 28 states, and you have informal institutions, not foreseen in the treaties. And the point is, But even within the Eurogroup of 17 states, it's hard to find consensus between 17 members. And, then of course the rhetoric from our Chancellor, for example, there are no alternatives for the measures taken. The so-called Tina factor, like Margaret Thatcher, there's no alternative. There's always an alternative, but the main difference is the cost of the alternative. But to say there's no alternative means that you can discuss whatever you want. The market dominates. And this is a very dangerous thing. And it leads to an alienation between the people and the EU. And I would say the traditional legitimacy deficit of the EU was the people have no say. There's not a democratic decision-making process, although the decision makers are elected democratically, of course. But it seems that the population is excluded from the whole thing in this case. Okay, you can see here the institutions. Well, my last point, the discussion about the finality, about the what does it lead to? Well, in the treaties you always find this European integration will lead to an ever closer union. And nobody actually knows what this means. But that was a compromise they agreed on. And I see different possibilities. One is, for example, it could be the integrated federation of states with central decision, probably. You see the question. That would mean the dream of the federalists would come true. And I have some ideas why this in the long run will be realized. The other alternative is, well, it would be just a free trade system. It would degenerate. It would not break, actually, but there's internal market maximum, and that's it. The other one, we have different views. We have this already. We extend it. And, of course, the last one, probably union without Britain. If you see the crisis management, I think the German has listed all the measures taken by the EU. This is a long list and a very complicated list. And I'm not really in a position to explain to you every single measure. But the interesting thing is we have only one example, the so-called six-pack. 6 different agreements. And it passed the Council and the European Parliament. There are five package of 5 regulations, and even financial sanctions in case of high cost, high debt, financial sanctions in cases of manipulated statistics, so Greek experience, and observation of the budget and sanctioning in case of violating the agreement. But the budget is for at least the last 600 years or 700 years in democracies. This is one of the classic domain of parliaments. But here, European institutions have the direct right to intervene into budgets. They can say, no, we don't spend so much money on this. You do this first. This is more important. And this, if this is fully realized, I'm just projecting into the future, then this could be a very different thing. And even the Commissioner for Currencies, Olli said, we have now a currency union for Europe. So this is a new quality, a very new quality, and the point is, I call it a sneaking process. So it's not really realized what's going on, because it's very technical, very technocratic, it comes from economists many times. So we don't know what the effects will be, but it could be that the effects will mean that the EU responsibilities are strengthened and you will have more power. Because now they will have not only the currency union, but also financial union. Probably they are on the way to economic union. And again, this sneaking process comes gradually, step by step. And sometimes I think people will wake up and say, okay, now we lose our financial autonomy. And this will have, say, effects on acceptance and democracy. So, let us summarize. The roots of the crisis lie in the ill-designed architecture of the currency union, which is the result of political failures. It's not, the problem is more political one than an economic one, I would argue. And the sovereign debt crisis so far led to the destabilization of the member state, of some member state governments, and to considerable political unrest. It is not a threat to democracy, I should have ended so far. The crisis, of course, we can witness led to an erosion of trust and enforced old stereotypes. The crisis divides the winners and losers, states which are better off, states which are worse. And in the long run, I believe that the measures taken by the EU will strengthen the integration. So it's not the end of Europe, but probably we witness a birth of different Europe. It's 27 states. They will manage it. Probably we have the Eurogroup, probably we have 10 states, but they will continue with a more and even deeper integration. This one? Okay, I always stop with this one. And this is European Union. I really miss this, of course, fun. It's all the stereotypes, as you can see. You know, the Germans are they humorous? You can have an adjustment. Unfortunately, what is the Belgium? Oh, yeah. Available. I don't know if that's true. It's, of course, fun, and I miss the new member states here. I really miss the new member states because we are playing with data. Thank you.
Thank you very much for, as usual, very interesting lecture. I didn't have enough audacity to interrupt you or to suggest to shorten it.